Guys, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by again. Today we're going to talk about vintage watches. Today we're going to talk about how are you dealing with your vintage watches. Now, I've been in the vintage world for a while, and when I started, there used to be an abundance of vintage watches, and now they're getting harder and harder to come by. And I did a live video. I was wearing the same watch I'm wearing right now. I got a picture. You know what? I'll just leave a picture up here of this watch. Now, I've had this watch for the better part of a year. When I got it, it was all full of some type of tar, and I couldn't take it off, so I had to buff the entire watch. And there was some parts missing. And when I purchased it, I knew I had a few parts for this watch. I just wanted to bring it back to life. But one of the things I haven't been able to buy is a pusher for this watch, and it's been a better part of a year, and I've spent so much money on pushers that I think I could have bought this watch brand new back in 1970 and build a time machine and go back and buy it, because I just hit a wall trying to find a part for this watch, you know. And I've called everybody and anybody I know to see if they could hook me up with that part. And they've sent me certain pushers, but they just don't seem to marry the case for how it's supposed to. So what did I do? I've had it with a crown ever since. I bolted a crown in the back. That way I could at least wear the watch and make sure there's no dirt or water or anything going inside the watch. But as far as you guys, how do you deal with these watches getting old on you? Or if you're a vintage collector, how do you deal with them when it comes to service? Now, it used to be very easy to obtain parts, especially on a bigger name like Tissot. You know, it's got a Lemania based movement, so it shouldn't have been that hard to find these parts. But I find myself where they're not coming by that often. So watches this age, if it's a normal service where everything is working, it is good. It is easy. You guys could get it done. Don't be afraid of the watch, you know. But if you're looking at vintage watches and you see that it's not working, and you don't have a spare one or two spare watches of the same caliber, the same model number, everything the same, I'd be very worried about it, because if something's broken in there, if a balance staff is broken on there, if one of the gears is broken in there, a mainspring, they're getting harder and harder to come by. And I think that's where the vintage world is going to start to hurt a lot, you know, because if we can't fix them, what do we want them for? If we can't use them for what they were intended to do, you know, keep time and tell us what time it is, you know, what good are they going to be for us? So this is one of the topics that is getting scary in the vintage world, and I think that if something is going to bring the value of our watches down, it's that all the good used watches, good vintage watches, they've been swiped up with this watch revolution that came upon us, and we can't get the parts that easily anymore. And if we get them, we're going to have to pay a high price for them. So I'd be very, very careful about the type of vintage watch you buy. I'd be very careful, make sure it's working, and that if they say it's working but not keeping time, that's probably just service. That's a guaranteed buy. I wouldn't even be scared of that watch. You know, it would start making me more scared if it says not working. You know, so if the watch is overwound, but you know the balance is turning somewhat and everything, you know, then it's probably again just a cleaning. But if you wind and wind and wind the watch and you never hit bottom, that means you need that means you need a mainspring. So where are you going to get a mainspring? How many dealers out there are making mainspring for a 60, 70-year-old watch? You know, it's going to be very scarce where you can get them. It's just a video to build a little bit of awareness when buying a vintage watch. You know, make sure it's working. Make sure that I don't care if it's been serviced or not. You could take that into consideration, but just make sure it's a watch that is running. And if it's not keeping time, that's fine. It's just a service. But if it's not working, nothing at all, it'd be something I'd be scared. So before you pull the trigger on one watch, try to figure out if you could buy a parts watch for that one watch that you have. So guys, Let me know what you think. Let me know how you deal with your vintage watches, and let me know if you keep them out running. Thank you much for stopping by. Appreciate it. Leave your comments down here. Like, subscribe, and do all these YouTube things. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.